Fairly often I'm asked to speak to groups about how I wrote the song Follow the Prophet. This is an abbreviated version of what I tell them. Back in 1987, I got a call from the Church Music Committee, and they said, we're putting together a primary songbook, a new one. We'd like to have you write a song for it. And we want three things. We want it to be about the Old Testament prophets. We want it to sound like a Jewish folk song. And we want it to be a happy song so the children will enjoy singing it. Well, as I tell the children when I'm speaking to them, what do we say when someone asks us to do something for them? If we can, we say yes. But what if it's hard? They always know. I say, where do we get help? Pray. That's right, pray. Well, this was hard. Why? Well, for one thing, to write about the Old Testament prophets, all the things they did and the great preaching, to put that in one little song, sort of like writing the Old Testament on the head of a pin. It can be done, but it's not easy. The second thing was it should sound like a Jewish folk song. Not a problem. I write a Jewish folk song every morning before breakfast, sometimes 2 or 3, huh? Not. What do I know about Jewish folk songs? Nada. But we'll work with that. But the third one was a tough one. It should be a happy song. Well, what's the problem? The problem is that my beloved wife of 26 years, the mother of our 15 children, had just died of cancer 2 weeks before. It was not a happy time in my life or our family, as you can understand. But I like to feel like I'm a professional. I can go on stage or I can write despite personal challenges. But more important than that, I believe that the Lord helps us when we pray to Him, and He helped me. I prayed, He answered my prayer, as He always does. Now, I had written things for the church in the past. I had written radio and television spots for them. I had written the lyrics for a musical the church produced. And for 14 years, I was one of the writers of the spoken word for the Tabernacle Choir, and I wrote other scripts for them. And sometimes I like to put a little humor in the things I was writing. I suppose that's why they asked me to write a happy song. Maybe I pushed my luck on the humor sometimes. A person who was in that meeting told me later, many years later, said when they heard my name, they said, Dwayne Hyatt? You want him to write the song? Yes. Dwayne Hyatt with the 3 Ds? Yes. He is the funniest man I know. How will we ever get it through correlation? Well, those good people who labor mightily at correlation to oversee all the publications of the church, make sure they're correct and well done, they have a sense of humor. They like to chuckle every now and then. It didn't get through correlation unscathed, but they were kind to it and to me. And so the Lord blessed me. Here's what He did. He reminded me of something I'd written years before in a script about the pioneers. I love the pioneers. This particular story always moved me. It's the story of Stillman Pond. Stillman Pond was a prosperous merchant in England. Then he came to Nauvoo and prospered again. Then he was driven out, as were the other saints. And driven out into the cold, he lost 5 of his children. Buried. The twins and 3 others buried back in Nauvoo. And then as he goes down the Pioneer Trail, he buries others of his children. About every week, he's burying one along the trail. And finally, he writes, died my beloved wife Maria, May 1847. Stillman Pond continues down that Pioneer Trail with the last 2 of his 11 children. His wife gone, and he himself so sick he couldn't sit up in the wagon seat. How did he drive? There was a knothole in the front of the wagon in the dashboard. He could look through that. What could he see? Not very much. All he could see were the tracks of those who went before him down that Pioneer Trail. including the tracks of Brigham Young's carriage. I think Stillman Pond said this to himself: I have a testimony. I know that God lives. I know that Jesus is the Christ. But I am so sick. I am so weak. I am so sad. How can I go on? I will look through that hole, and step by step I will follow the prophet. That's it. That's what I want this song to say. That's what I want the children and all of us to know, to follow the prophet. So the Lord answered my prayers, gave me a little song. People tell me it sounds like a Jewish folk song, and I have heard children singing it and seen them on television around the world in many languages. They seem to enjoy singing it. The Lord was good to me. And my advice to anybody who wants to know is, now we're in a world where people are confused. If you don't believe it, go and watch the news. We can get direction all along our way. If we heed the prophets, follow what they say. So follow the prophet, follow the prophet, follow the prophet, don't go astray. Follow the prophet, follow the prophet, follow the prophet. You know why? Because he knows the way.